Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be in this beautiful planet of ours. This is Metaphysical Meetup with Marc live here on Fridays. I'm your host, Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector. Just want to say grab your coffee, grab your tea. We're going to sit back today and have a nice conversation um, based on a quote that I had seen from a movie. So if you want to learn more about me, go right here to marclainhart.com. Good morning to my subscribers, my Patreon prospectors, and Diamond Hub subscribers. Hope you're having a wonderful Friday. And we're going to also do a meditation that I put together. This is something that I've put together. It's all trademark free, copyright free. So stick around here if you want to sit in a nice healing, transformational meditation that I put together for today's show. So I've been off the last few weeks, vacation. Part of the things you do, I guess, when you retire is go on vacation. So we had a lovely week down in the Baja. This is El Arche, which is the tip of the Baja in Mexico that comes down where the Pacific Ocean meets the Sea of Cortez. We go around the El Arche and we go up about 40 minutes into a small town called San Jose Los Cabos or Del Cabo. And we just go down there for the warm weather and vacation and just take the time to disconnect so we can make that time to reconnect, if you will. So I'm back, but I was off the last few weeks. So you can always catch a replay or a rerun or an encore over on my YouTube channel, which the next episode, if you haven't joined the YouTube channel yet, make sure to join. Again, all the information is right here at marclainhart.com. Go to subscribe or store, and you can get in as a subscriber, or you can join the YouTube channel or upcoming events or book a reading, whatever you're looking to do. But I want to say, while I was on vacation, a few things transpired, which I'm always so grateful for. Being alive and being able to celebrate the journey of life, which sometimes can be very difficult. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But I received an award from the city of Seattle for the third consecutive year as a top consultant in my area. So I was on vacation and got that notification and press release. So I thought that was very cool. And again, very grateful. Just it reflects people's feedback and working with me because I don't do this by myself. It takes a spirit world and those my clients and my students that vote on these type of things because I didn't even know I was in the voting or running, to be honest with you. And then I also received two awards, top consultant third year in a row, and then also business person of the year here locally in West Seattle through Alignable. So received two awards, which always nice. But we also, when you can have the joys of life, that's great. That's very happy, right? But while we were on vacation too, we had a family member make her transition into the spirit world. So there was loss, there was grief with the happiness, and that's the balance of life, right? It's learning to celebrate the moments, the magic in the moments, the present moment, because you never know what tomorrow is going to bring or what later today is going to bring for you. And so we had a lot of celebrations, celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary. So I don't know where 30 years went. I'm not sure how she put up with me for 30 years, but we celebrated that, just a nice getaway, but at the same time, celebrating life, celebrating anniversaries, celebrating health, but then also realizing that, while you're on vacation, you watch people can get injured. You can see people pass into spirit or become aware of that. And so there was some grieving moments and some frustration moments as well that we have to learn to balance. And on the flight coming home, because I was wondering what I was going to talk about today. Because with Metaphysical Meetup, with me, there's no agenda, there's no script, if you will. So I'm going to just move over to the Facebook page. It looks like we're broadcasting fine. But I was on the plane ride home, and I was watching a movie called the Room Next Door, and I was like, oh, it's about death and dying. It's not an easy. There's a lot of poetry, a lot of humanism in it, a lot of empathy in it, and you have to wonder, what it's like to face your own mortality, if you will. And that is what the movie is about, is a friend asking another friend to be in the room next door as she's terminally sick with cancer, I believe, and wants to be able to help her make that transition, which is illegal because she has a pill. And so it's a very good insight, but it has um, two great actresses in it, and I'm going to get that for you here. But it's called the Room Next Door, and it's about coping with the hardships of our personal journey. You know, life, loss, death, dying, if you will. And it stars the two stars in it. Oh my goodness. It's a thought-provoking dialogue and emotional death, and it stars. Oh my goodness. Juliana Moore, and I can't think of the lady, and you know her. So look that up because I don't want to lose my spot on what I was going to talk about today. But it's called The Room Next Door if you want to check it out. It's a very emotionally intriguing, insightful movie. But I was on the plane ride home coming back from the Baja and watch this, and it got me really thinking because I've been in those places. I've been, in severe trauma, severe grief with loss. It's a big part of who I am today as the Intuitive Prospector and the work that I do, whether it's through my podcast or my book or my readings or my workshops. It's because I've gone through and have navigated those very dark days of what life can throw at us. From loss of family, broken family, overcoming depression, anxiety, counseling, mentorship, spirituality, transformation, finding the diamond within. And the quote from the movie that really stuck with me today, and is what I'm going to share with you today, is quote, "There are lots of ways to live inside of tragedy." And I started thinking about that, like, oh, how does one live? Like right now, there's a few people I'm thinking of, even just from our Wednesday night group. There's a couple people in group that have lost a father, lost a coworker, and we say the words lost. And let me correct that. We don't lose. It's a temporary pause because we will see them again. But in our mind, we like to say lost, and for me, that kind of takes down the energy of being the victim of losing, when it's like, no, you're going to see them again. So it's life after life, not life after death. But there are a lot of ways to live inside a tragedy. And I was just going to share some helpful things that I found in my journey. And if you've been following my work, you've been following my show, the format has changed. So I'm only doing readings for my subscribers. If I see that you're on, we have Diamonds Day, which is the first Friday of every month, is dedicated to the subscribers, the Patreon prospectors, and the Diamond Sub subscribers. Those pages have two links that allow you to have readings with me every first Friday of every month, both one session at 11:30 a.m. and another one at 3 p.m. for the different time zones that I work with. So if that is of interest to you, then please visit marclainhart.com, click on the big blue diamond, send an email, or click on the links that are already on the events page, and you can subscribe right from there if you wish. If not, then just you can hang out here and we can have lots of chats. So one of the things that I found in doing this work for a long time, and being once a student of loss and grief, now a teacher of inspiration and motivation, if you will, and what I do. And there's really, when it comes to this quote that I just shared with you, again, there are lots of ways to live inside a tragedy. It's coping with the hardships of our personal journey, right? It's life doesn't ask us what we want. You can't see off camera here, but I've got a little prospector shrine that's right here that sits up in the window with crystals, and right below it, the first plaque that reads, it says life happens, because life never asks us as humans what we want. And so it's about the flexibility, and it doesn't matter how strong you are or how smart you are to navigate tragic situations. It's about how flexible you are. That's where your survivability will come in. But everybody has a personal journey. Everybody has a story. Everybody has a hardship. Mine just maybe a little bit over the top, but again, it happened for me. It didn't happen to me, because again, the to me is the victim. For me is navigating to something better than myself, knowing that I will see my loved ones again down the road, my friends, my family, my fur babies. And everyone navigates pain differently. So this is why I'm sharing this with you today. And there is no quote unquote right way to deal with suffering, to deal with grief. I always, I just had a reading when I got back. An in-person client came to the studio, just in despair. It just had lost her father, and came with skepticism, which is totally fine. I think it's healthy to be skeptical, because the spirit world is so intelligence and so loving and supporting. They will find a way to get the information to us. And her father came through with a lot of relevant information, very evidential information that you just can't make this stuff up. But yet you could see that she wasn't receiving because he had just passed just a few weeks ago. And I always recommend not doing a reading with somebody like myself when you're in that state of raw and in that state of loss and grief, because you can't see the forest, you can't see the trees through the forest, or you can't see the forest through the trees, however you want to look at it, because you're just not open to accept, because there's so many things going on, including a celebration of life they had to do. She was getting married here, so a whole range of emotions. So I always recommend 4 to 6 months after a funeral, after the trauma that's unfolded, because it's in those 4 to 6 months that I found everybody comes in for the funeral, it's a celebration of life, whatever, and everybody's hugging and crying and sharing stories, and then everybody dissipates and goes back to their own lives, right? So it becomes a very lonely path of grief. And I found in my own experiences, 4 to 6 months is the time that you start to be more receptive and open to what has taken place. And that's a good time to do a reading with a medium or a spiritualist or a psychic for the answers that you're looking for. But again, there's no right way to deal with this, but I always just put that caveat: wait a few months before you get a reading, because you want to be open to receive the beautiful messages that can come through from your loved ones, including her father. And he brought through some very interesting stuff, and his mannerisms. She walked out here, taking lots of notes, but was she satisfied? I don't know. It's hard to tell. Was she more doubtful? It was the first reading she'd ever had. But again, she wasn't in that right place to receive. And so I reminded her to check back with me, because again, just for those of you that follow my work, you know that I always talk about some of the best evidence comes after the reading, after the intention, after the invocation to set that energy, because the spirit world sees that. And us as humans are based on a construct of time, so we want information right away, right now. And in doing this for almost 2 decades now, and have worked with several thousand people, the timing isn't the same on the spirit side that it is here on the earthly material side. And again, things may come after the reading, the signs, the symbols, the synergies, the synchronicities, which Einstein always said, the synchronicities and coincidences are God's way of remaining anonymous, whoever or whatever God is for you. But again, some of the best evidence can come after the reading, because there's many times in a reading I'll say to somebody and they'll be like, no, I don't understand that. I can't place that. It's like, okay, we won't make things fit, but I'll leave that with you. And you can check with your family or check with your friend and get validation. And many times I don't hear back, which is fine. But many times I do hear back, and people say, hey, Marc, you're never going to believe I talked to such and such, and they did validate this. I didn't know that, right? So that shows you the intelligence of the spirit world and how they can interact with us. But being a place to receive is very important too, and to honor your grief. Something, like I said, a lot of the work that I do today, a lot of things I write about and teach about are from my own personal experiences and tragedies, and sharing that to honor your grief. Because when you don't honor your grief, you make things more difficult. And there's many ways to honor the grief. Just like in today's quote and today's topic, there are a lot of ways to live inside a tragedy. And that first one, we all go through it. It's that denial, right? It's the coping mechanisms of the journey. Us as individuals, a lot of times refuse to accept the reality of the situation. Trust me, when my brother was murdered and 3 days later my older brother was diagnosed with terminal brain cancer, that was a very hard accepting of the reality of my journey, and watching my brothers move into the spirit world almost within a span of 3 days. One instantly and then one prolonged, based on his surgeries, multiple surgeries for his brain cancer. And then of course my father-in-law at the same time succumbing to multiple sclerosis. So we had 3 events. And again, it was literally the denial. My family had never been involved in any kind of violence or been a victim of violent crime. That was all very new to me, to have a family member murdered. And I just couldn't accept that, and that was my denial, which is a coping mechanism. And it's part of, these are just ways that we can live inside the tragedy when the tragedy is unfolding all around us and we're not sure where to turn. And, it can be proactive, also reactive, if you will, because it allows us to process. And sometimes people process faster than other people, but process that shock and awe and that rawness, right? Denial is one, avoidance is another when we get into our coping mechanisms. Some of us, myself included, distract based on hobbies or career, or just avoid altogether confronting your emotions and your feelings. Something I did for several years until I started to understand about, life and death and life after death and life after life, and receiving, lots of different counseling sessions and mentorship with spirituality people to understand and have that knowledge and education. So one of the things that we can do when we're in that journey of again, there are a lot of ways to live inside a tragedy, is we have our normal coping mechanisms, like I said, denial, avoidance, but we can also start to move after we move into that acceptance of what has taken place, with this sadness or grief or loss, is we can start to move into opening up to new opportunities and new things that we may have once never thought about. Writing was a big one for me. I didn't know that I was a writer at heart. I always liked English. I wasn't very good at math, but became later in life a writer, published author, book, several articles, and that writing, or that journaling, if you will, poetry, songwriting, whatever it may be, it can help articulate our feelings that are difficult to express verbally, right? So it becomes another expression without, sometimes for me, I just couldn't express verbally. So I just kind of shut down my throat chakra and opened up my writing auric field, if you will, as a way to articulate feelings and try to express without, because, there are many times I just wanted to just yell, the F word, and just really just let it out, let God have it. And I did the night it did happen. I did. I had a very heated, intense conversation with my version of who I call God. And and that can be, and I'm not going to go to hell for that. I don't believe that. I don't believe that there's in my perspective in doing this work, I believe that there's the spirit, the God, the consciousness, whatever you want to label that as, it's perfection. And if we're created in the image of perfection, but we know that we're imperfect, then I don't think that a perfect God would damn an imperfect being, right? That's never made sense to me. And so I, have these conversations, have that transparency, have those yelling bouts as a way of expression verbally. And maybe you don't believe in God. That's your journey too, right? Atheism, agnostic, full believers. The journey of life gives us many choices and opportunities to choose from. But the other thing that I found, visual arts and music were also, so writing, music, visual arts were all very important to invoking certain emotions or memories. Music for me, movies and music really generate a lot of memories and generate a lot of emotions, if you will. And the spirit world works a lot with me in movies. We just had it in group, somebody brought forth a movie, and from there, detailed evidential information unfolded from this movie that was given by one of my students in my group. It was actually fascinating to watch it unfold. But a lot of these times, these artistic expressions can be really helpful. And these are just some of the ways to live inside of a tragedy. And again, that quote comes from a movie I watched on the plane ride home called The Room Next Door, if you want to check that out. So again, visual arts, painting, drawing can allow us to express our emotions visually. So again, verbally, visually, audibly, these are all, ways of capturing our feelings or our emotions that just words can't convey, if you will. And so the big thing for me that really helped in this journey of trying to, live inside of a tragedy was my community and connection, because it allowed me to connect to people that had also gone through what I've gone through, including victims of violent crimes. That's actually one of the first connections I had after my brother was murdered, is we were welcomed into a community called Victims of Violent Crimes in Washington State. And from there, I realized just how much crime and chaos and murder takes place just within our state. So I can't imagine on a global scale. But it also gave me a support option, a support group, if you will. And I find that when you join groups or communities of like-minded individuals that have had the same experience, because we don't all have the same experiences, right? We are the sum of our experiences. But it can create a safe space. That's the one thing I want to share with you. Like in my development group on Wednesdays, there are sometimes people just are very impacted by life, and they can come to the tribe to know it's a private place, a safe space, a supportive space. And that's why I started my group almost 9 years ago. was to have that community and the connection. So, being on an online community or an in-person, whether through your local church or your local spiritual center, these can really foster healing and transformation because you're able to now verbally or some way express yourself to honor your grief and to know that you can still live inside this tragedy and still live your life. So online communities, support groups. I also found that through through the garage. I found through this journey, even though difficult, and I can talk about it today, the resilience and growth that comes from living inside a tragedy. And what I mean by that, we talk about post-traumatic stress, which I learned about in my counseling and my sessions over the years, and from biofeedback to hypnotherapy to spiritual counseling on a weekly basis. Post-traumatic stress is a real thing. We didn't always know about it. Even after the Second World War, they started to become identifying of wars create this, post-traumatic stress disorder. And then they realized, especially after the Vietnam War, that there was this psychological thing that takes place for people that have experienced severe trauma or murder or, loss. But I also learned along the way, it's not just the post-traumatic stress, but we can also, through this tragedy and living inside a tragedy, we can develop the resilience and growth to have post-traumatic growth, right? Something to think about. Post-traumatic growth, PTG. And some of this, and I think that's what happened to me. I had PTSD, but I also had PTG, which was that post-traumatic growth, because it allowed me to start prospecting in things I never thought I would ever do. And I'm not sure I'd be sitting here today talking with you if I had not gone through those events years ago with the loss and the traumas and the tragedies that were unfolding all around me. But what it did is it gave me new perspectives, new horizons, greater empathy for being in those support groups that I was talking about, and just a stronger sense of purpose, I guess. To help people be inspired. I always say, be inspired, inspire others, inspired before we expire. That's the tagline for my podcast, which is called Inspired Living, which is now syndicated, and you can get wherever you find or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. So, and we talk about these type of topics, but I also found that it helped me give me purpose, but it also helped me endure the tragedy to where I can talk about it today, almost 20 years later, and I'm not sad about it. I'm actually quite inspired because I know that this is temporary, and that there's another phase of my consciousness and who I am as a person that will move on. That took me years of education and mentorship and understanding and readings to understand that. And not someone doesn't come to that just in a matter of a few weeks or a few months. This has been a few years of deeper contemplation and self-reflection. And I find that through that resilience and growth, we can live inside the tragedy and turn the tragedy to be a part of us, because it never leaves you. It's just like, it's been 20 plus years since my brother in those experiences, but time, it becomes so irrelevant because you can go right back to those moments and be like, God, it just felt like yesterday. It doesn't feel like 20 years, right? And so what you do is you never completely lose that heavy baggage of tragedy or loss. So what you do is you learn to be a part of that and grow around. This is the grief and the tragedy and loss, and you grow around that, and it becomes lighter, and it doesn't become this heavy bag that you have to take around. So, it also helped with setting goals through this journey of living inside a tragedy. And, after tragic events, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to have tragic events and tell a story, but I found that I would set new personal goals, focusing on what I could control versus it really was the first mindset to be like, I'm really not in control of anything that goes on around me. I'm only in control of how I respond or don't respond, do or do not, right? And what it did is it helped move me forward on what I had lost, but also what I had gained. And again, started to look at it differently. And Dr. Wayne Dyer wrote about this and taught about this all the time. When you change the way you look at something or things, the way you look at something or things, the things that you were looking at start to change. And I didn't understand that for many years, and now I do. Now I understand it. So that led me into a couple ways of living inside this tragedy is also memory and remembrance. rituals. I established a few rituals in my journey, lighting candles or visiting a gravesite or going to a favorite location or eating their favorite food. Picture sits right. The last picture of my brother's sits right off camera here, and I can always look up and be like, okay, they're always just a thought away. But it's that remembrance, those memories, keeping that memory of your loved ones, your friends, your family, your fur babies alive, and it provides. For me, I was brought up in a different religion, and it really in this religion it was more about rituals and standing and sitting and praying. And that's for some people, that wasn't for me. And there's over 5,000 different religions around the world. But for me, it didn't provide a connection. It didn't give me teachings. It gave me connections to God and Jesus and Mother Mary and all that. But what about the people that I had lost? And again, there's that word I used, lost, had transitioned ahead of me. They didn't talk about the mediumship. It talked about going to this place up in the clouds, and it just felt very fictional to me. It felt very imaginative, and it didn't bring me a personal connection. And it would be a few years after that I started to get more into spirituality and move away from religion. Spirituality is my own connection to the divinity, the same divinity that's in my cells and my DNA. We call that the flower of life. And that's where the spirituality opened up my mediumship and my psychic. And it gave me this sense of connection I'd never felt before with other religions. I think that's part of the journey, is to prospect, to find the diamond within, but also to find the many hidden gems all around us, based on maybe this one religion that you were just brought up in, or your parents taught it to you, learned behavior. That's what I went through. But at some point, you break free from your own free will and independence and go for something that you're aligned with. And sometimes that takes courage, because some people are trapped in family dynamics or family traditions, and that can be a very difficult place to go, but it's also a very courageous place to go, because it's about knowing thyself, to find thyself, to self-reflect, to self-connect, and have a sense of connection that is on the other side that I didn't get through the former religion that I used to be a part of. It was kind of cool, actually, because I could participate in the service down in Mexico. They had a church down there from the 17th century. So we went to church and sat through a Spanish version of the church, which was, again, I always observe, and I think that's always fun. And I get to participate because I am confirmed in that religion as an adult. I just don't practice. But I can always take of the wine and the bread. So when you have those memories and you have those remembrance moments, and again, you can do this through community, you can do this through a counselor. It also gets into storytelling. So, the memories that we have, it provides that sense of connection, if you will, but it also gives you the ability to have stories, to tell stories. And I'm writing my second book is all based on my journey and my brothers, and the journey of getting to where I'm at. I'd love to write a fictional story if that download someday happens, or that seed is planted, and I could write something along the lines of, how does one become a psychic? How does one become a medium? Are you born with it? Did you come through it through trauma and tragedy like I did? But I find that storytelling can be a great way. Again, there's lots of ways to live in a tragedy, but the one that I found is storytelling. And I find that my mediumship becomes storytelling, based on, like, just the client I just had here in the studio was a lot of storytelling from her dad, just memories that he shared with me, and I could storytell and say, is that correct or is that not correct? And she would say yes, or she'd say, well, no, I don't understand that. And then he would bring forth some more information. She'd be like, oh, now I see where he's coming from. So it's just interesting. But storytelling, and sharing stories, not just at the funeral, not at just a celebration of life, but after the fact. I still talk about many stories of my family members that have made their transition, and it's a way to honor their legacy. It's an insurement to have memory for future generations. And I think storytelling is a very, very important part of living inside a tragedy. The other thing that I found in doing this, again, some therapeutic practices, living inside a tragedy, we try to sometimes do it by ourselves. I would recommend, there's a reason they say many hands make easy work, including self, for not only just your journey, but healing and awareness. But, there's, professional therapy by those that have, taken higher education. can provide tools and strategies to cope with loss, to cope with grief, to cope with anger, or to cope with PTSD, or in this case, you learned today, PTG, post-traumatic growth, right? It can help people. I know it helped me and the many sessions that I went through. And I was actually forced when I had my first therapeutic practice. It was when I was still in the Coast Guard. This would have been back in 2002 at the height of everything that was going on in the tragedy. And I was forced to go to 8 sessions down at the Army base to have biofeedback. I'm like, I don't need that. I'm 27 years old. I'm good. I know everything. And by the 8th session, we started the first session. It was all about go to your happy place, and and then by the 8th session, you could actually measure that there was something to that. And so that was kind of my first toe in of therapeutic practices that was actually forced upon me. And then, of course, I had a grieving counselor that I had to see as well to deal with the grief. I don't know if she helped me. She may actually, her voice, just her voice alone. I'd walk into the session and you're already down. You're already, feeling so many different emotions. And I'd come into her studio or her place of business. And it would, and I'm not kidding, this is how it sounds. Hi, Mark. How are you? And so when you hear that vibration, that voice, all of a sudden my energy got worse. It went down. It didn't, and I know that's an approach, to approach your clients, but it was just the voice was, hi, Mark, how are you? Just very, but it did open the door for me, and it helped me to cope with all the different emotions that I was going through. And it helped me to live inside that tragedy. And that's today's message. There's a lot of ways to live inside the tragedy. And so it also gave me, I started to apply mindfulness meditations. Um, I found that mindfulness can help us as individuals stay grounded, stay in the moment, especially the present moment. The mind is really good at getting ahead of itself or going back to something we can't change. But it also helped with mindfulness and meditations, getting out of nature, breath work, plant medicines. Also helped with reducing a high level of anxiety and depression that I was battling for several years, including survivor's guilt, which that's another thing that I didn't know was a real deal until years later through my therapeutic practices. But it helps reduce the anxiety. It also reduces the mindfulness and the anxiety of what the future can hold or regret about the past. And so it's really important to have those therapeutic practices if you are in that moment of grief or tragedy. I did find that there was a social withdrawal that could take place. I know that I did the opposite. I actually did more social activations as part of my denial or my acceptance or my avoidance. Now I would say I'm more isolated and withdrawn just from the experiences. Some seek connection like I did, but some of you may find yourselves isolated or feeling alone or withdrawn because grief can be a very lonely place. And be careful with that because that loneliness can lead to depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, suicidal actions. And I've seen friends and family both commit suicide, and that's another tough emotion. So a lot of times people that do take their own lives is because they're in so much pain. They just want the pain to stop and don't think about the consequences or the ripple effect that leaves out. I've long thought about that, so I had to work in a different way to address my pain, right? To not let the pain overburden me or take over my mind to take me to dark places. And these are the things that can help you with that. Those internal struggles that we go through, the isolation can exacerbate those feelings and emotions and lead to like a volcano or lead to a head. And so it's important for your loved ones or your friends or your families, your coworkers, your colleagues, even your fur babies, to check in when people are going through very trying times. And luckily, I have a strong support network around me of people that know me, have known me before I was this, and know me now as this, that reach out and connect with me. It's not a big circle. I'd rather have a smaller circle, but they know who I am, including my tribe members, my students, family members, really close friends and colleagues. And so that is much beneficial to my journey as well. And again, these are just ways to live inside the tragedy of today's message. The last one that I'm going to share with you is finding humor in all of this, right? Laughter is relief. I found that, and travel, I'd probably throw travel in there too. Laughter and travel are release and relief. But for some of us, I found that humor can serve as a coping mechanism, and just providing those brief moments of just just no weight, no thought, no tragedies, no traumas, just being, right? And there's a lot of different things you can do to come into the magic of the moment. We work on this in with my students because that's very important. That's why I have the breath tattoo now here as a reminder to breathe, because breath becomes very important. But you can take, humor and move into that energy and feel that laughter and be like, you know what? Yeah, there's a lot of shit going on in my life right now, but I can find a moment where it doesn't have to be that. I don't have to be the victim of it. I don't have to marinate in that. And I can be in a moment where I can just laugh at myself, laugh at something I see on the internet, laugh at something I see out in society, laugh at just a stupid, joke. Um, because it just reduces the weight of the tragedy. And again, these are just ways to live inside that tragedy when it's taking place. And I find that shared laughter is very infectious, very transformative when you just have, if you've ever been in that moment where you're just laughing at other people and you're just literally just crying because you're laughing so hard. I absolutely love those moments. They don't come as often as I like, but when they do happen and you're just crying and your belly hurts because you've been laughing so hard, I love when you can have that shared laughter. Finding human in our finding humor in our shared human experiences, and it creates bonds among us that have had this grief or this sadness or these losses or whatever it may be. It doesn't even have to be a loss of it could be something you're going through personally, and it highlights our ability as humans to find light even in the darkness, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And we have to look for the light. And again, there's darkness all the time, all the way around the planet, but we know the sun always is going to come up. The light always dawns, right? They always say it's darkest before it's the darkest night before the dawn, right? And I find that humor, shared laughter, your own laughter, create laughter, maybe become a stand-up comedian. I actually have a couple of friends that are one's a singer, one's a comedian, and they actually did that journey to help with their own expressions for the loss and the experiences that they had in their life. But I find with what I'm just sharing with you today that there's lots of ways to live inside a tragedy. I think that what I've highlighted today is it's just the complexity of navigating. Again, complexity of navigating is flexibility, right? Being more flexible, being like bamboo, strong but not breakable. Again, it's not the most strongest that can navigate this. It's not the most smartest. Those do help, but it's those that are more adaptable and flexible that allow you without that breaking point. And I know that's what it was for me, because there was a few times in my journey, my path, experiences I had, that there was points of a point of getting close to a breaking point. Handling such information or murder trials or there's lots of things that can break us if we allow it to. And I decided, you know what, that's not going to happen to me. That's happening for me, so it doesn't break me. And I find when we have what I just shared with you today on navigating, there's lots of ways to live inside of a tragedy. And each individual's journey, I get it, is unique, and the ways that we can cope can vary widely. Grief is not on a timeline, and it's influenced, of course, by your own personal circumstances, cultural factors, individual resilience, learned behaviors, ego, but understanding these different approaches that I shared with you today, I believe from my own experience that they can foster empathy, post-traumatic growth, and support for those that are still living, and support through your communities of those to build resilience, to build growth off their own individual tragedies. And again, post-traumatic growth, I want to leave that with you today, because I think that's one of the things that I took away from, looking at this quote and going, oh, okay, I've never thought about post-traumatic growth. We always talk about the post-traumatic stress disorder, so why can't we have a post-traumatic growth order, right? So it's just how you look at things and how you approach things. So I hope that was beneficial. Again, that's a quote from the movie. If you want to see it, it's an interesting movie based on, somebody that's terminal, life after life, getting ready to lead up to that, which I think about a lot. You may think about it like I do, and you may not have thought about it. I didn't really think about death and dying from a personal standpoint until these experiences happen. I've been around death and dying as a professional, from my Coast Guard days to my firefighter days but it just never hit me personally, right? And when you start to realize, that this is just temporary, then you're like, okay, you start to think about things differently. You start thinking about, okay, what about my own journey? But what does my death look like? What will my funeral look like? Will there be anybody at my funeral? I don't want it to be a funeral. I want it to be a celebration of life, and know that I want it to be the carpe diem celebration, just, seize today. And, but it's just those different thoughts that we all go through and that we all experience. And so I hope that helps you with your own journey today, and how to navigate the different ways inside of that tragedy that may be taking place right now. So I'll take a few questions here. Again, if you want to catch my YouTube show, it's going to be airing over on my YouTube channel at noon. Thank you to all the followers. We're about to hit 40,000 subscribers, so I appreciate the follow and the journey. I am going to try, now that I'm back from vacation and before my next vacation, I am going to try to do a little bit more TikTok live, and I'm going to try to work on getting my workshop Experience the Etheric with me for my subscribers and for my students. And then I might do like a Monday live version here, which is more focused on psychic sciences, healing, mediumship, spirituality, that kind of thing. So if that's your bag, great. Want to learn more, just type in marclainhart.com, internet search Intuitive Prospector. I promise you I'll pop up some way, somehow. But I've missed you guys the last few weeks because I needed a break. I needed a vacation with everything going on. This last year has been very transformative for me in so many ways. But I wanted to say thank you for hanging out with me today. Let me go over and just see what we got. Who's here? Who's saying hey? Bear with me. All right, so get on the Intuitive Prospector page here. Make sure to hit that subscribe or follow. Great way to connect. Great way to know what's coming up. Next book, latest podcast. We will be back on the air the 28th, next Wednesday, if you would like to join us. Let's see here. Live. All right. Hi, Kara. I've missed you so much. Well, I've missed you. Can I have a card, please? I just resigned my job and I need some guidance. You pick today. You got it. Hi, Jane. Saying thanks for being a top fan. You can see Kara's got the little badge. So you quit, you resigned from your job. So that's courage. Good job. I know you've been dealing with this for a while. So it takes faith to have, you don't risk it. There's no biscuit. You're only going to learn to fly to leave the nest. I'm going to give you the energy deck, the atomic deck, real quick. And again, if you're one of my top fans, or you are a subscriber or a Patreon prospector, go ahead and ask a question, and I'll do a quick reading for you. I'm not doing the Zoom room anymore. Those are on Diamonds Days. So that's for my subscribers, where we'll do live interactive readings through the Zoom links on both those pages. Diamond subscribers and Patreon prospectors. Different prices, different accesses, different ways to get monthly readings with me. So I got this deck here. You told me to pick, so let's just you pick today. And what we can do, it's like my coffee. Before I pick your card, Kara, I look at my coffee. You can do tea leaves, you can do palm reading. There's lots of ways to connect. And actually, the cream that was on top of my coffee today kind of looked like a little nuclear bomb going off, right? And I'm like, God, I hope that's not the future. But we live in such interesting times now that I've talked about for a couple of years about our roaring 20s. I was like, well, maybe something's about to blow up, maybe something. So you can use different things around you to connect to something bigger than yourself versus just your mind, right? And so what we can do with cards is I'm going to shuffle the deck now for you, Kara. You're very welcome. And then just what I do is I feel the energy of the cards, and in my mind, I can see maybe a stop sign. So stop sign now just popped up in my mind. So that's the card I'm going to pick. And so she just resigned her job, and she needs some guidance for today. And look at this card. Look at this card. Harmony. So whatever you just did, that alignment, that energy, that vibration, just puts you into a sense of harmony. Now, the mind, the ego is probably going, well, I don't feel a lot of harmony, Mark. I feel quite nervous or scared or anxious, right? Don't buy into that BS. It's just like Buddha said, you need to let that shit go. Don't buy into that mindful, self-destructive, self-sabotaging voice that we all have. Move past that and see if you can hear the higher self voice. And a way to turn off the mind from those negative thoughts. And that's one question, when I get to the other side, I'd be like, why is our mind so driven by negative thoughts, negative influences? Why do we go right to the fear and the doom and the gloom and the negative? Why is that? And then I started thinking about, we were talking about this on group on Wednesday. You have the hand of God. You can't see the painting, but I've got the actual portrait around the corner to when you walk in the studio. And it's the hand of God reaching down to man. And one of the things I didn't realize is we often don't realize how powerful we are and how motivating we can be and how much we are more than we are, because the finger that's coming down from God's a straight finger, but man's finger is bent. And so it's like, what can we do in this journey here to get away from that negative thinking? We've got to raise our finger somehow, right? But it's just so interesting that we have so many negative thoughts. And I would challenge you, and again, when you add tragedy on top of this, or traumas, or loss, or grief, then it can really pile up. And then the ego really gets into that victim mode. And I'd say, don't do that. Strive to find the diamond within, because diamonds are only created under extreme pressures, but also find that higher voice. And the way you can do that is through breath. If the mind is just pissing you off and the ego is pissing you off and a bunch of monkeys run around, start humming. Humming actually calms the mind down. Breath work calms the mind down. Look around your space and say, you know what? I'm going to look at 10 different objects and call them out by name. Protein shake. Present moment. Coffee cup. Ooh, agua. Look, Gumby, being flexible. You like how I have that? It's kind of reminding me of the video from, was it Miley Cyrus? Like a wrecking ball, right? But you got to be Gumby. You got to be flexible. So when you do those little tricks, get down and do 10 push-ups. Do something that requires the body to move. It shuts the brain down and it helps you get to a more positive voice versus always listening to that, which my ego is called Igor, listening to the Igor that's always behind me saying, oh, master, do this, do this. No, that's not what I want to do. That's not what I want to think. So these are just ways to trick the mind. And again, when you're living inside that tragedy, what I shared with you today, there's lots of ways to live inside a tragedy. And I hope what I shared with you today can help you to navigate into prospect for finding the diamond within, which once reveals transformation, it reveals inspiration, it reveals healing, it reveals light, right? And then it helps you to connect with what's all around you. So I hope that makes sense. If you want to, again, work with me, you can visit marclainhart.com. I'll be back on the air next week for another episode of Inspired Living. And then stay tuned for the workshop, Experience the Etheric, if you're interested at all. And just even having an experience with the spiritual world. Nothing scary, nothing from a Hollywood movie. Put that shit out of your mind. That's not the workshop we do, but there's a lot of different, opinions and labels with this. That should be coming out, and that'll definitely be on the subscribers page. You'll get first notice. So another reason to be on the Patreon, Prospectors, or the Diamonds Hub. And again, thanks for the follow. Appreciate all of you, top fans, subscribers. Again, I never thought my YouTube channel would ever hit 1,000, and here we're about to hit 40,000. So I think some of the information is resonating with people. The time of awakening, time of transformation, our roaring 20s of great change, ascension, and transformation that I've been talking about, podcasting about, writing about for many years now. And there's more to come, y'all. There's going to be there is going to be the negative side of that with everything in life. It's the yin and the yang. It's the balance of the two. But we here on this page, and what I do, try to focus on the positive stuff, because we can't control the negative stuff, but we can respond and control how we respond, right? As the coping mechanisms, as we were talking about earlier. So the ego has been pissing me off. Yeah, I get that feeling, Kara. Harmony is perfect. Yeah, so trust the process. I know that's not always easy to hear. It's, easier said than done. Been there, done that. So if anybody wants to debate me on this, we can have a nice long debate, because I definitely trust the process. And it actually, the last couple of years has turned out better than where I was once in that tragedy or changing career or medical surgeries. And you have to trust the process, but you also have to realize that the way knows the way. So get out of the way, right? The way knows the way, so get out of the way. So I hope you are having a wonderful, healthy, inspirational Friday. I will be back next. No, I will not be back next Friday. I will actually be golfing. So I will be golfing with my good friends. So I will not be on the air next Friday for Metaphysical Meetup with Marc Live, but you can get on the schedule, get on my calendar, get on my newsletter. Newsletter keeps you abreast of what's going on, what I'm doing, where I'm at. But I won't be back until June, I guess. Today's the 23rd, right? Yeah, 23rd. So I will see you in June. Summer is here. Yeah. So I'll be back Friday, June 6th. Yeah, for another metaphysical meetup with Marc Live. But you can also hit on my YouTube channel because there's episodes over there too on the YouTube channel if you're interested, and past episodes if you want to check those out. So appreciate y'all hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday. Have a fabulous weekend. Get into the moment. Take the time to disconnect so you can find the time to reconnect, wherever that is for you. And just remember, there are many ways to live inside a tragedy. And I hope today's message resonated and helped you with that. So as far as the meditation, this is your time now to meditate. This is a meditation that I put together. It's a few minutes, and then the video will just end. So I'm going to cue that up. It's just this is my meditation. So this is all trademark free. The music is trademark copyright free. The video is trademark copyright free. And if you want to just take a few minutes to tune into what I resonate with what I talked about and tune into the messages of how to live inside a tragedy, I wanted to offer this meditation, visual and audio visual meditation to help you with what we talked about, but also to help you understand that tragedies will bring growth, that post-traumatic growth I'm talking about. It will bring resilience. It will bring empathy. It will bring healing transformations. So I hope you can use the next few minutes of this meditation to go to a place to where you can surrender and let go, because the caterpillar does not become the butterfly without the severe struggle within the cocoon phase. So I hope you enjoy this. The meditation is going to be the Earth Meditation by Minion Gelly, and then Beach Light Meditation by Dren McDonald. So I hope you enjoy this. Until our next soul adventure together, be kind, be caring, be compassionate. Most importantly, wherever you're at, what's going on, dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. And I hope that you'll discover that diamond within. We'll see you next time here. Stand by for the meditation. I hope you enjoy it. Namaste, Namago.
One planet, 7.3 billion people, only one you. Life offers us many opportunities and learning experiences. Are you ready to explore and discover this beautiful planet, the life and energy all around us, the spiritual world, and what is unseen, along with your own personal soul adventure? Marc Lainhart, the Intuitive Prospector, is the spiritual connection you have been prospecting for. Internationally known as a tested and professional clairvoyant medium and spiritual advisor, Marc's work as a metaphysical teacher, medical instructor, radio show host, inspirational writer, and hiking guide are here to help you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, inspiration, education, and a whole lot of spiritual awesomeness. Dare to dream, dare to explore, dare to live. For more information on Marc's spiritual practice in Seattle, Washington, please visit marclainhart.com or internet search The Intuitive Prospector.